What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are back once more with myself. I am Jake, Nerd Level Rising, here with my buddy Shay from the channel, Zachary. Shay, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing great. Excited to talk about this book right here,
Yep.
Fugitive Prince. This is book number 4 in the Wars of Light and Shadows, the first book in the Alliance of Light arc within the major series. And we recently had the pleasure and fun of the big group discussion over on Abel's channel. That if
Mhm.
anybody has not seen that, you can go check that out. If I remember to, I will link that in the description here. If not, just throw it in the search bar. I also have a playlist on my channel of like all the discussions that we've had over the series too, so you can find it there. But the best part about those discussions, we have so many friends that we can hang out with and just bounce ideas off of each other. It's super fun. The
Mhm.
downside is there's so many people we can't like get really in depth into quite as much stuff. And so it's really
Mhm.
fun to do these one-on-one chats also, where we can just kind of get a little bit deeper into these books because there's just so much to talk about. And I think what might be an interesting place to start is something that you actually brought up in the discussion that we did over on Abel's channel, which is,
Mhm.
we start this story right off the bat, the very beginning, with Alera, and she's going and she sees like the birth of this child, and it's got
Right.
some, we're connecting it to like prophecies and all that sort of thing, um, which I think we all of us found really interesting. But I'm really glad that did you actually lead the discussion? Was that the first thing we talked about there also? Um,
I I don't remember. I
I
know
don't
I
remember.
mentioned how it was like just hinted at that they were of the same lineage as Erathon because
Yeah,
she looks at Fionn Aerith's father and she goes, Erathon? And then she's like, wait, no. And her
yeah,
vision like clears a little bit. But then, towards the end, Lorenda sees him and it's like confirmed. Um,
yeah,
but when I first read this, I think you started Fugitive Prince a little bit before me, and we had our Warhost chat, and you were talking about how when you have Alera and Arathon healing that guy, it
hmm,
reminded you a lot. Like you were like, oh, this is where Janny's like search and rescue experience came in. I kind of felt the same way with her saving the infant with
yeah,
Alera saving the child. I like we just had that discussion, so that was cool seeing like her save that child, and then the knife is twisted when it's like, okay, this good deed is rewarded with this awful prophecy.
yeah,
So
yeah. And the prophecy was. Do you remember the specifics of it? It was like 3 different possibilities or something like that.
if he dies by fire, it's like the best outcome. There's one where if he dies a certain way, he'll betray
Yeah,
the heir of Cephalin, and then if he dies this other way, I mean, I'm pretty sure he dies in all. No, no, if he
did I
lives to old age, it will spell the ruin for Athera or something like that.
something? Oh, here we go. I did write it down. Look at this.
Okay.
Detailed notes, folks. Here we go. So here's the so like Shay said, his name is Fionn Aerith, which is interesting as we sort of stumbled upon throughout the discussion. Those are the same letters and sounds as Erathon's the Fall. Interesting.
Mhm.
I wonder I wonder why that is. But we have this prophecy, right? If he dies in fire, only he will suffer.
Mhm.
If he dies on salt water, Erathon will fall beside him, which I assume means a ship, right? We have a lot of ships in the series. If he
Mhm.
dies on land, crossed in steel and smoke, Erathon will be betrayed, but he'll survive. If he lives into old age, the baby lives into old age, the whole world is doomed to plunge into darkness without hope of redemption. So, like, this kid has to die somehow, basically,
Right.
right? Um, so either he's going to die at sea and Erathon will also die. He'll die on land in a battle where Erathon will be betrayed, but he'll live. Not ideal, right? Still kind of
Right.
bad. Or the kid dies in fire, but it's only him. So like that seems the best option is to burn this kid alive. But
Yeah.
obviously that's horrible. And so I guess we'll see where that goes. But what an interesting way to start off the story. Like prophecies have been a big part of this whole series so far,
Mhm.
but like this one feels very different because not only is it not from Dakar this time, but it is having these multiple possibilities that kind of keeps us guessing. Not only
Right.
how are we going to get there, but like which of these things is going to happen? Is somebody going to intervene and like force one of them to happen? Like who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? Interesting. Very
All I can
interesting.
really offer is conjecture. I really don't
Yeah.
think he'll die in fire, and I don't think he'll live into old age. You know, like how on the test you have like four possible answers, you can rule two
Yeah.
out. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. So it's like I'm mainly thinking it's going to be the salt water, like the Arathon falls beside him, or the betrayal if he dies on land.
Yeah.
Um, but who knows what Janny's gonna do with it?
Who knows?
I think that it'll probably be one of the main focuses of Alliance of Light of like the overall third arc because it kind of gets introduced in this first chapter, and then aside from like the little triplet sentences at the end of each chapter, it's not really addressed again until Lorenda
Hmm.
does her scrying.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna have some repercussions throughout the whole arc, but I guess we'll
Yeah.
see.
We'll see. And I guess I don't know if I didn't catch this or if or do you either know or if not, do you have a guess? Like this isn't actually Erathon's son, is it? It's just like the same family line, or is it implied that this is Erathon's son?
I thought it was like a bastard line of the Cephalen that was like that's why they're like sheep herders because it was just so far removed from
Okay.
like what people understood of the lineage of Cephalen. They're not they don't have the support of the clanborn. They don't no one I think it's just an offshoot of the family that no one really knew about.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, so yeah, we start the story like that, and then we kind of get into catching up towards. And I apologize to those watching. I'm going to glance at my phone probably quite a bit because I want to not get too messy here. But we kind of shift over, and we need to pick up the pieces from the end of Warhost
Right.
because like the end of that book was crazy, right? There's
Mhm.
so like just this horrible like massacre essentially that sort of happened. Arathon is almost assassinated, and Dakar takes the arrow for him. Lysair gets, he's just so dejected, and he goes to try to regroup, and there's so much that's going on. And I think Janny does such an awesome job in this book of not skipping over that stuff, not skipping over like how are these characters feeling, and
Right.
we actually get to spend some time just sitting with them and seeing how they feel, what they're doing, how they're reacting, and I mean, I assume you feel the same way. Like I really appreciated that. It really
Mhm.
it gives even more weight to the end of book three, I thought.
I thought, well, one, Arathon's recounting of the loss at Deer Kenton Vale, the songs that he sings, it even opens with that song. Like that's the first
Yeah.
thing we get in Fugitive. But then, Arathon sings it later on in the book. And then also Kaol's reaction to the tragedy at the end of Warhost, like how he's kind of forsworn violence,
Yeah.
is very apparent from where we find each of the characters, Jared as well, that they've all been like very much influenced by those events, even if some time has passed.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's this is not a series where like characters see something incredibly traumatic and then just go on about their day.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the KL stuff is, I really like that too, because like, of course, people are gonna do that. They're gonna like he's kind of questioning Arathon also. He's like, bro, what? Like, you had to do that, really? Like, did that feel
Yeah,
justified? And um, yeah, so I love that we sort of get the full spectrum of the reactions. Like he has that. We have like Arathon himself is just sort of like depressed and like really upset. Lysair is angry and like trying to really like, okay, you beat that army. How about this one?
right.
And so he's trying to get ready. We see he's up to some big stuff also that we'll talk about here too. But um, I loved all that, and I loved seeing how Arathon's like, I gotta go find these Paravians. And he
Right.
goes, and like, it doesn't work, But like, he goes there, he finds the land deserted. I think they said it was like destroyed by the dragons or something, like back in the
Hmm.
second age, I think. That so it was like a wasteland.
Yeah, it's
But
just a scorched
yeah,
earth.
yes. But he's still like his goals haven't changed, right?
Right.
Which is cool. He's still going after what he believes is right, even with how he's feeling. And I guess in a way, so is Lysair, right? They're just two
Mhm.
very different things that they feel is right. Um,
I found Lysair's morality in this book to be fascinating
mhm.
because like in earlier books he's like no, keeping slaves is wrong. We should just execute them. And then like near the opening of this book, he's like, whoa, killing is, we shouldn't kill them. We should turn them into slaves. I was like, that's literally the opposite of what you said before, but it just shows like the lengths he goes to justify his actions. Like
Yeah,
he really did make slavery sound to his people like a just and noble.
totally.
Like
Yeah,
he made it it's his use of rhetoric like, oh, we're sparing their lives by enslaving them.
yeah.
But that went strictly against the compact as we see when the fellowship kind of like yoink him.
Yes, yes. We'll. I mean, that's sort of one of the next big things that happens, right? Is we go over to where Lysair is. Um, actually, before I literally just had a thought pop into my head. Maybe this is wrong. I haven't thought about this at all, but I'm curious what you think. the The book's called Fugitive Prince, right? Which I assume is referring to Erathon is trying to like stay away, and he's going to find the
Right.
Moravians and whatever. What if this Fionn Aerith kid is a prince, and it's referring to him also?
Mm.
Do you think I'm way off base? I have no idea.
I I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Hmm.
Fugitive Prince. I'm thinking about the other titles within Alliance of Light. Grand Conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, it
I
could
don't know.
be,
Hmm.
but
Anyway.
there's no way he's like Erathon's
Yeah.
descendant, right? Like
I don't think so,
Erathon,
but I don't
the
know.
time
Anyway.
wouldn't match up for him to have baby.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Anyway, as you were saying, Lysair, right?
Well, he could be a descendant of that line, and he could be like next to inherit after Erathon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm not crazy. We'll see.
Yeah,
Janny usually watches these, so maybe she'll either laugh at me or be like,
right.
"Oh, okay, read on and find out." But yeah. So talk about Lysair for a second, dude. You mentioned him getting kind of yeeted out of Avenor. So how did this? How's this go down?
Like from what I recall, the Fellowship like take him out and they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. And then like you can tell that they don't really have a lot of patience for him, but they're
Hmm.
still trying to like guide him like, hey, stop doing this, stop doing this. And he just immediately responds with disrespect and like, oh, you're just serving the master of shadow, the lord of evil.
Yeah.
And he's basically going against like everything that is outlined in the compact between the Fellowship and the Pravians is what we find out here. Like, I think there's mention that they're like slavery is a big no. So they're like, you can't be doing that. You're forming
Yep.
a cult. This is not okay. And they kind of withdraw him from the compact. So he's like no longer protected under the compact along with the rest of humanity. And you saw like in was it in ships where he talks about the compact with the brother Sabridian and that he was like if you were to
Yeah.
continue developing technology that like that would have been the ramifications if they had made other choices, but like Lysair did not listen and stayed obstinately determined in his goals to take out Erathon. So they're like, "Yep, you're no longer part of the compact."
Yeah.
Which I
And
thought was interesting. I'm assuming that that will have ramifications later, but I guess right now, like they're preparing to take him out, but they're not doing it yet because that threat we have beyond one of the world gates. I forget what world it's from. They need light and shadow. Remember what I'm
right.
talking about?
I
Like that
do.
one threat, that one looming threat. They need light and shadow to combat it.
Yeah.
They say.
Yeah.
So
So they still need him.
yeah,
And the Mistwraith isn't completely gone, right? It's just
right.
imprisoned right now. And I loved everything with that compact. Major Balance is what it was called, right? That I feel like it gives us a good glimpse of why the Fellowship act the way that they do.
Mhm.
Because is it Sethir? I think that's sort of explaining like we can't force people to do anything against their will. They have to like give us consent, which
Right.
then gets back to if we go back to book 3 when Dakar was trying to heal that girl in Vastmark, and he was
Mhm.
like, "She has to tell me it's okay. Like I can't just do this."
Right.
So, which is probably why they have such a hard time with slavery, right? Because if anything is going against someone's consent, it's that. And
Right.
so it's so we hear that, and then oh, what was the other piece? that it was they can't make someone go against their will, and they can't directly harm people. So they can't just go kill Lysair, which they wouldn't want to anyway. As you said, they
Right.
need him for something. But it's just that hearing about the limitations of what they can do, I think
Hmm.
lets us think back to books 1 through 3 and make more sense out of like, well, why didn't the Fellowship do this? Why didn't they just do this thing? Well, they couldn't, right? It was part of the deal with the Paravians back when they helped them in the war, and
Right.
let the humans stay on Athera. So that's super interesting. I love that. It's just another instance of Janny just sort of perfectly threading these little world building things in the history
Hmm.
of the world into the story that never feels info dumpy or confusing or overwhelming. It's just little bits at a time.
Hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. We got some with the Coriani also. That was pretty close
Yeah.
after this, where they got the Waystone back in book
Hmm.
3, and they're trying to
Right.
use it, and they're like, hey, this isn't working like it's supposed to.
Hmm.
They were like, they couldn't directly what did they tried to like cap a volcano or something, and they couldn't do it. It was something like that. And
Hmm.
they were like, the Fellowship, damn it, they tampered with this thing. They can't do this. And so they went to go, Morel's going to go try to figure out what's going on, tell them off, try to fix it, whatever. And she's sort of reflecting on their history. So we get another little bit of all of that. And this is really like, this is huge, right? And
Yeah.
we don't get much details here. There's more details in one of the short stories, Sundering Star, which you can read at this point.
Hmm.
But here, at least, we find out that the Coriani are older than the Fellowship, actually, but they've
Right.
been on Athera for less time because when they got to Athera, they found the Fellowship was already there. So
Hmm.
weird power dynamic that way. The Fellowship is probably like, "Hey, this is our turf. You can't tell us what
Yeah.
to do." And the Coriani's like, "Nah, bro. Like we're older
Back
than
off.
you." Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's weird and complicated. And then we get a mention of Callum Kincaid, who something like
Destroyer of
he's
worlds.
destroyer of worlds. Had like this crazy weapon, which is maybe a reference to like why in book 2 why black powder was such a big deal, that we can't have this. It's very dangerous, and maybe it's something or similar
Because
because
it's
he's
just going down the path that eventually becomes automatic gunfire, that becomes
yeah,
nuclear armament, that becomes, it's just, I
yeah,
guess that they chose a certain, point to like stop technological advancement, at least
yeah,
as it pertains to like different sorts of weaponry.
totally, yeah,
I thought it was cool how we got a ton of clarification. So feels like to me the Coriani are very much focused on like the preservation of humanity, and the Fellowship is focused on the preservation of Athera and the
mm,
Paravians.
yes,
And while I think we're supposed to, and this is probably just a failing on me, I think we're supposed to view them as like both noble in their own ways. They just go about things differently. I'm actually big like on the Fellowship side of things because I think much like Lysair, how he came to Athera from Destiny Lure and brought a lot of those, you know, perceptions with him. I think the Coriani did something similar with they have this like the Prime has these memories going all the way back to Earth. The Prime power is passed on from Prime to Prime, and they have all these memories and all this lineage of coming from Earth.
hmm
And I think some of the faults that come with that is they come from Earth. They're focused on the humanity's survival, and I think that they try to exert their will on Athera, whereas the Fellowship is just trying to uh, uh, ensure the planet's survival and make sure that things don't go awry. I mean, we already know that this other continent got scorched. So while the
yeah,
Coriani are trying to fix things and keep the planet livable for humanity, I don't think like that volcano being capped. I don't think that was an oversight on the Fellowship's part. I think that they're mapping things. They understand the planet better than the Coriani because the Coriani are bringing those preconceived notions from millennia of humanity's history, from pre-Athera humanity to Athera, and this isn't Earth. It doesn't have the same rules as Earth. The indigenous species are not the same as Earth. So I think that in their attempt to preserve humanity, like if Athera is gone, like okay, like while Athera is not the most ideal world, we got like 4 different way gates with 4 different crazy things coming in. We're led to believe that this is the last refuge of humanity. So So I know that they're trying to preserve humanity, but if they're exerting their will on this planet, I feel like they're actually working against their own interests in a way. That's
Hmm.
my theory. This could be disproved next book, but
Yeah.
that's where my
Interesting.
mental's at right now.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, I'm on board with that. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I know immediately in Curse of the Mystery, I was like, oh, the Fellowship of the Good Guys and the Coriani are the bad guys. That was like
Right.
my immediate. But now the more we've gone, the more I'm just like, I don't know. They both seem they're both in the middle somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. We're going to see if we edit this out or if it's funny. I might leave it in. That'd be cool. I might be fine. We'll see. What else do we have? We have this up with Talith. Um, let's talk about Talith a little bit. So we start. We know that their relationship, Talith and Lysair, was getting
Mhm.
strained, certainly,
Right.
to say the least, in sort of books 2, especially book 3, when Talith got captured by Erathon, and
Mhm.
then when she got released, and Lysair was like, "Hey, there is no way you didn't betray me." He just didn't trust her, and it sort of broke their relationship in a way there. And then like now we get to this book, and it's like they're totally estranged, and there are some really interesting ways that I think Talith's story is kind of handled here in this book. Like um I loved everything about it, even like the I guess even the way that it ends.
Yeah.
Like it's just different and interesting. So I guess maybe I'll throw out one of the things I really liked about it, and then I'll kick it over to you. Like I loved how she's kind of been secluded to this tower, right?
Mhm.
And so, which by the way, the people who were behind that, like some of Lysair's kind of right hand men, I feel like they're gonna. I don't remember the guy's name, but he showed up again later. Um,
The like
when
kind of Chamberlain type
yeah,
dude.
what was his name? Anyway, but like I'm interested to see more from them, like what's going on with these kind of higher ups in
This
Lysair's army.
cabal of
Yeah.
bastards.
Yeah. But they basically imprison her, and the story that they're telling the kingdom is that like she's just so ashamed of herself because she can't give Lysair a son. And it's like,
Right.
well, that's we know that's not true, but that's sort of what the story that they're telling everybody. And then we see Mr. Sabridian. I said Mern. I don't know if that's the actual right way to say it, but um, whatever. Is he the youngest brother? I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, he's the
Um,
youngest.
he's a big part of this book, by the way, also. But we have such a fun scene of him like scaling this tower and eavesdropping on these people and stuff. And he gets up and he talks to Talith. And one of the things that I really liked about her story, like I was saying, was just that she finds herself in this position that's not her fault at all. Like she's trying to do the right thing, and she's just stuck in this. She's stuck, but she still devises a way out, right? She still
Mhm.
has a plan. Obviously, it's not ideal, right?
Right.
She's just basically trying to get pregnant any way that she can to prove that it's not her fault and to show that everyone else is wrong.
She's
And
like, I'm fertile. I can prove
yeah,
it.
she's like, I got this.
Yeah.
And but I just thought that was really it's she's very smart, right? Like that's kind of one of the big things that stuck out to me with that is that like she's really intelligent, and she can be sneaky when she needs to. She can like be wily when she
She's
needs
very
to.
witty in her interactions
Witty,
with Myrn. Yeah, like you could
yes.
tell that, like, well, first they show that Myrn is like kind of a playboy, kind of a dandy,
Huh.
but he sticks to his guns when it comes to Talith because he doesn't want to sire any clan-born
Yeah.
with a city born. He doesn't want to do that with any of the town born. He doesn't want to kind of mingle his bloodline, which is hinted that that's very important for the clan born. But like she kind of like gives him a hard time with it, and she's pretty sardonic and pretty witty at
Yeah.
times with their interactions.
Yeah. Yeah. And that whole scene was so fun. That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes in this whole book was him scaling the tower and then interacting with her. And yeah, I love that. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you about Talith in this book?
Um, Yeah, kind of just everything you just said is what I actually, this is very embarrassing, but I was emailing Janny about the point where, she dies in one of those little triplet sentences.
Hmm.
There was a scene not too long after that where Dakar and Miern meet on the road, and there's
Hmm.
mention of a lumpy sack, and my mental image of the scene was wrong. Like I thought Miern was hiding a lumpy sack, and I'm like, oh, tell this is alive, confirmed. And I emailed her, I'm like, ha, I see it. And in the next chapter, it turns out it was Dakar's like Dakar was the one who had a lumpy sack in the back, and Arathon just like
Oh,
pushes it
right,
over, and it's
right.
Arathon, and I was like, damn it. Like if I if I had just read like another 3 pages, I wouldn't have given myself false hope. But I just saw that and
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, Mern saved her, and that's not what happened.
Don't you hate it when you reach out to Janie about something and you're like, "Oh, I see this. That's awesome," and she's just like, "That's not right." Just like, no. That happened to
Yeah,
me. That happened to me somewhere in the middle of this. I thought I nailed something, and she was just like, "No, dude, that's not right." So I had to be corrected, but that's okay. It was good. Um,
it sucks the most when it's something that was like clarified very soon. Like
yeah,
that was one thing that if I had not set the book down to type the email, I would have been like, oh, I'm glad I didn't say anything about that.
that's so funny. And you mentioned how she dies in one of those. It's just a sentence that's like, "Yeah, she's dead."
Yeah.
um, which is just like Maynol, right? And I mean, we saw more buildup in that case, I suppose, back in was that in book one, I think. Um,
Mhm.
but interesting choice, and this was a big part of our group discussion on
Yeah.
Abel's channel. That like, why did Janie do it this way? And I
One
don't know.
thing
I
John Minton said that really struck with me was like it's like in, some Shakespeare plays like Hamlet's father dies off screen, like it's that sort of thing. It's seeing the contrast between what's shown and it's felt like some like an off-screen death in a
yeah.
Greek tragedy. He's the one who made that comparison, and I'm like, I see that.
Sure. Yeah. Because it didn't feel weird to me really. I was just like obviously I was shocked that she died, but um I didn't feel like I needed a huge drawn out scene for it. Like
Right.
it kind of got across
Sometimes
what it needed.
death and tragedy sticks harder when it is brief, when it is just straight
Yeah.
to the point, and then you
Um,
just have to deal with the fallout of it.
yeah, not to spoil anything, but you had one of those relatively recently in a different series, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it's very, very effective. Very effective. Um, well, I guess here I'll go ahead and spoil the thing that I said that embarrassed me. There is a point where in this book where we get reunited with Felerin or Felirin or however we want to pronounce it from book one, who was that bard that they traveled with in book one, and then eventually they kind of parted ways and whatever. But now we find him again, and he's being like captured and is going to be burned at the stake essentially by these same people, these right
Mhm.
hand men from Lysair. And I loved this scene because we finally got to see the sword do something really cool. I've been so interested in this sword ever since it got introduced in book one, and we've seen it just kind of be along for the ride to a degree, right? Yeah, there it is, and it's it was just I loved everything about it because it has this very specific kind of magic, right? Where there has to be a just cause for the
Right.
magic to come out, which I can't help but wonder. That's not really Arathon's bag so much. Like that's Lysair's, like his justice and that sort of thing. So I wonder what would happen if Lysair had the sword. How would things be
Mhm.
different? That's kind of weird to think about, but it was cool to see that sort of combined with his Master Bard abilities that he was using to sort of distract everybody and free Felerin, and they were able to escape. And I remember when that happened, for whatever reason, I read it and I was just like, okay, the sword and his Master Bard ability combined to unleash Earth power, which seems like it's like the foundational bedrock magic of Athera.
Mhm.
We've seen a couple instances of this thing. And I messaged Janny. I was so excited. She's just like, no, it wasn't that. It was just a sword. I was like, no. But it's the sword is awesome. Like that's really all I have to share about that. Well, it was cool to meet Felerin again, and it just gives you more of an appreciation, or at least me, more of an appreciation for the world being so big but yet so intimate at the same time that we can come back and see these characters again.
Mhm.
But the sword was just awesome, and I loved everything about that.
Yeah, Fellerin getting reintroduced just like kind of cemented like one thing I've noticed with Janny's writing is like named characters always serve a purpose
Yeah,
versus like other series like Wheel of Time and Malazan. You'll have like some named characters that like just serve a purpose in this one little scene and then that's it.
yeah,
Whereas like anytime a character is named, like explicitly named, given a name, they're gonna have like some part to play in the story later on.
hmm
I found that to be I don't think there's any deviations from that rule thus far.
yeah. I think you're right. I can't think of
Like
any examples.
most characters that serve one purpose in a scene, they're never named. They're always referred to by their title, their relation to other characters, and then even sometimes like with Thakar, the armory guard.
Theric.
Theric, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, even with Theric, he wasn't named until he was serving a purpose within the story.
yeah. That's
So that
true.
was kind of interesting. Like Falerian, for a second, I had to like remember remember who he was for a second because it'd been a while since I read Curse,
Sure.
and then I was like,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. And was this? I'm trying to remember. Was this scene with the sword? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Was this after Muriel Prime kind of did her curse on Arathon? I think it might have been.
I think so.
Okay, so I might have skipped that. But so Muriel did a curse on Arathon, which again was one of my favorite. Anytime they're doing these big magic rituals, I love it to death. It's one of my favorite
Mhm.
things in this series. And it seemed like in that one, Muriel was like, you got like this is her shooting her shot basically. Like it seemed to me like she was kind of feeling, I'm 1,000 years old. I don't know if Lorenda's gonna cut it as a successor. We
I know,
gotta
and when she
make
was
this work.
doing real quick, when she was doing one of the rituals, you could see Lorenda just like coveting the power, like,
Yeah.
yes, I must have it. And I'm like, oh brother,
Uh-huh.
this is your best running mate, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, as you were saying, I interrupted you.
No, you're okay. But so I love everything about how it's described and her motivation, and it's like it's sort of ambiguous at the time of whether or not she died doing the ritual or if it worked. But this was like,
Mhm.
or if she survived, I should say. But the point of this was she was trying to essentially like flare up the effects of the Mistwraith curse, I guess, in Arathon to try to get him to, I don't know, act out in that way. And they're trying to find him, they're trying to capture him, they're trying to like just get things to their own ends, right? And so we see immediately we flash over to Arathon, and now all of a sudden he's like Darth Arathon, and he's trying to fight, Dakar, and is it that's Cowell
Cal, yeah.
who he's fighting there, right? And he like basically kills him. They had to like leave him for dead because like now the inn is on fire because the the Coriani are like coming to try to capture everybody, and they gotta barely escape. And now Arathon is sitting here. He's already in a horrible mental space after the end of book three and what he had to do there. Now, one of his most loyal friends, he just lost his mind and killed him. And so he feels even worse. He's just in such a bad spot.
Right.
And and again, like his thing is empathy, like that. He feels it so much more strongly than anybody else. And that was another big instance, I think, to me of
He does discover later in the book though that he didn't kill KL,
right,
right?
right. But at the time, he
But
thought
in
he
the
did.
moment he really thinks he killed him.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I felt so bad for him. I was like, this is tough. This is really tough. And Dakar's sort of stepping up and helping him get away, and
Mhm.
knowing that that's like the more important thing, unfortunately. So it's
Right.
cool to see again him sort of maturing a little bit, and he
Mhm.
wasn't just out drunk somewhere and missed all this. Like he was present and
Right.
able to help. So that was cool.
At this point, had he seen the scrying or the prophecy of the Pravian like skewering Arathon? Like he has that one prophecy
Oh, he does.
where
You're right.
the Rioth and Pravian just like
Yeah,
impales Arathon. I think was that.
I
I
think that
remember
might
that
have been
being
before.
that was pretty early in the book.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're
And we
right.
really haven't seen the ramifications of that prophecy yet, or at
Mm,
least not in any overt, blunt ways. So,
yeah.
it'll be interesting going on to Grand Conspiracy and Peril's Gate, how that prophecy is going to.
Yes.
So many prophecies going on right now.
There's a
Like
lot. There's a
there are
lot.
so many prophecies. Merlin just kept it to one.
Yeah.
But these fellowship wizards are all over the place.
Uh-huh. They are indeed. They are indeed.
Dakar, I mean, there's so many prophecies going on.
Yeah.
The Black Rose prophecy.
Yeah. Now we have this one. I guess we solved the Arathon taking an arrow on the battlefield one. Like that one's done at least.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
one
Check.
off the books.
Yeah.
Um but so like Moriel's like sort of down for the count, right? We're not sure if she's alive or dead, and Lorenda
Right.
walks in. She sort of barges into the ritual room. She's sort of not supposed to
And
be in there.
Moriel gave her whole like game plan.
Yeah.
And part of that was that Kael should die. And Lorenda's like, but what if I
Uh-huh.
used him? And she
Yep.
deviated from the plan immediately.
Yep.
Immediately.
Ruins it. Ruins
Yeah.
it. And things don't work out super well for Lorenda. She sort of had these big hopes, and she was like, "Oh, okay, you're." I think she notices that Moriel is just barely alive, but she's just like, "You know what? This is mine now." And she just tries to just go off and seize some of that power, and it doesn't work out that great. Like you said, she sort of broke the plan, which probably ruined some of that ritual magic that's happening, right?
Right.
Maybe that's why it didn't work out super well. But Loren, I thought this was almost in a way of how book 2 and 3 was so much of Dakar's journey. I think there was a lot of like Lorenda's journey in this book that was
Yeah.
great. It was great.
Agreed.
Did you? What stood out to you about Lorenda here?
Uh a lot of her she is a character of many sins. Like she
Yeah.
has
Yes.
pride, she has envy, she has greed, she covets the power of the prime, and she's
Hmm.
prideful in thinking that she could know better than the prime. She's like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
why would I just let KL die when I could use him?" And it's like, do you think your mistress who's lived for a millennia got that? You think she's lived that long by accident, by
Hmm.
happenstance, just because? And you think you, at 60 years old, 40 or 60, however old Lorenda is, you think you know the ways? You don't know the
You
ways.
don't know.
And seeing her fail, and then even at the end when she's like, when she's been shamed and she's been cast out in a way, like she's still very hateful and spiteful, and it's kind of clouding her judgment. But I don't know, I mean, she's latching. I think she has a vetted interest in Fionn Aerith, as we've seen at the end, where she's kind
Hmm.
of like looking at that family. She notices that the father looks a lot like Arathon, and she's scheming
She's
some things
scheming.
for that baby
She
who is now a
is.
young boy.
Yes, indeed. I loved how she. You're right. Like she got humbled in a big way, but she's not like
She
fully.
hasn't learned. She
Yeah,
hasn't learned.
she hasn't learned. But it was great, to see, her her sort of in a way betraying Moriel, I suppose. Well, I guess she kind of just did. It wasn't even really in a way. She sort of just outright did betray her.
Blatantly. Yeah.
And then it kind of the tables get turned back on her when she's out on that ship, and they're out. It's on the slave ship, I think, right?
Mhm.
And I keep getting this part confused. Is this Cowell who is doing this, or is this Catrick? I keep forgetting Catrick's role in this book, who was the shipwright guy building the slave ships. The Arathon was going to use him for something, but then he went over to Lysair, and then I keep getting that part mixed up.
So I think, and I will probably be corrected in an email from Janny later. I think Catrick's uh, um, swaying to Lysair's side was a ruse. I think he was always going to use Lysair's gold and resources to build these ships and then sequester them away to Arathon's cause. So it was
Okay,
like deplenishing his funds,
sure, that makes sense.
much like the kidnapping Talith was made to plenish these funds, and you know, um, so to take away his money and then also to supply Arathon with a fleet. I think that's why Catrick did what he did. And then Mierin was planted there to kind of make sure that all that kind of came to fruition, but a lot of kinks got thrown into the plan. So
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. There's so much going on in this book.
I know
There's so much going
there's
on.
a lot.
Um, but anyway, we see her basically get punked and like tied up, and they steal
Yeah.
her
Kaal.
her
Kaal's the one who
yeah.
does all that.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. He gets a couple of the Coriani, I think, right? But Lorenda included, and
Mhm.
like ties them up and steals their waystones, and doesn't he destroys one of the stones, which like kills the Coriani basically.
Mhm.
It like unwinds all of her long life, and she's just like, okay, gone. And
Oh, what a world!
yeah,
She,
yeah,
Wicked
uh,
Witch of the West.
yeah, exactly. So now we get a glimpse into part of how they work, right? If we destroy their focus stone, then maybe we kill them.
Mhm.
And so they steal the Renda. So now like there's high stakes there now that we as the reader can realize. And it gets over to Arathon, and he actually ends up sending it back to her because he's just such a good dude. But
Yeah.
I think he plays with it a little bit though,
Yeah.
before he sends it over. So, but yeah, I loved everything about her arc through this book, and she winds up in this place with she winds up talking to Lysair at the end, and that's another one of my favorite scenes that is just opening up like this huge can of worms that Lysair is basically putting his foot down, like, hey, I'm not going to work with you guys anymore. You're going to go down too. I don't want any magic here. So now he's
Mhm.
not just trying to fight Arathon. He's going to fight Arathon and the Fellowship and the Coriani, and he's just going to, go scorched earth on everybody with his. We barely talk about Lysair with his huge religion, right? That he's starting this
Right.
cult that I think was so beautifully done that like feels so organic in this book. It's not like forced in at all, but like you can just see the slow progression of this thing building, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Gonna
I
be
liked
more than
everything
a
with that.
mild inconvenience.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know that like from book one, from the prologue, that church is formed and that, like Lysair has become like this messianic figure, like this like Athera Jesus.
Yeah.
So we know that things are gonna go down. We know that this church is going to continue to grow throughout this
Hmm.
arc and probably beyond that because we've seen, the canons of the third era kind of give him an almost godlike reverence.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But like we're already getting like some of these people seem to really worship him, and like he's so charismatic, and he's so like he's the perfect
oh,
cult
like
leader,
that
right?
one soldier that he was like, "You're no longer like you can't march with us," and he was like falling on
Yeah.
his knees. He's like, "No, Lord of Light,
Yeah.
no!" Like,
Yeah.
yeah. There was like even the foot soldiers. There's a fair bit of zealotry there.
Yes. Totally. Totally.
Differentiation or segregation of church and state does not happen in
Does
this
not.
cult.
No.
He is both king and god.
Yeah. 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 But like that seems to be the big thing that Lyser's sort of doing through this book is just trying to build that up and trying to it's just him, I guess, getting to that point where he's like, no, I'm just gonna exert my will across everybody. That was like I almost got chills. I think I did get chills, like goosebumps, reading the end of that of his part of the story because I was just like, oh no, where is this gonna go? Like it just is. It's big. It's big. Um, I was glancing down at my notes. There's one other huge thing that obviously we need to talk about that we haven't touched on. Is there anything else beyond that you want to hit first, or do you want to jump into Grimoire territory?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to go to the Grim Ward. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's tackle that because I think that that's probably the most like I want to say the most interesting part of the book, but the most like mind-blowing, interesting, like
Yeah.
uh you don't see that in a lot of other fantasy books. And there was mentions before, like I think in our last discussion, I was like, there was something about creatures spawned from the dreams of past dragons. Like
Uh-huh.
that was just like a passing description that she gave.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what scene it was in, but I was, that kind of stood out to me. I was like, spawned from the dreams of past dragons. That's not something you just say every day.
Uh-huh.
And then, we kind of get some direct exposure to what that is in this book.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I feel like I just talked a lot. Do you want to kind of share your early thoughts on the Grimoire stuff, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
All right.
It was really interesting to see, like, it was just so weird where that dreamscape brought us. Like, we see back into Dastiny Lur, where and it just paints a picture of like how powerful the dragons were. If even a dead one is able to like distort reality to this level, and then you see those soldiers go into the Grim Ward, and like, sure enough. They all get eviscerated, and sure enough, you're like, "Oh, Arathon's gonna get blamed for every single one of these." Like you
Uh-huh.
just know that Arathon's about to be mega blamed for this
Yeah.
for no reason. Um, and uh yeah, it was really, really, really fascinating. And it's like so weird that like the dreamscape of a dragon, even a dead dragon, like they're kind of distorted dream reality because they're so powerful and so encircled that it's like us mere mortals, it's like our actual reality. So
Yeah.
it was very interesting to see how those dreams really became the stuff of nightmares for every mortal that wandered into the Grim Ward, and it was pretty. What about yourself? What were
Yeah.
your thoughts while reading?
Man, I mean, all of that, all of seeing those, um, the is it Sayard Dluin? That's the DL throws me off. I can't say that sound very
Sarah
well.
Lewin?
Yeah, it's hard.
Sarah
Um,
Lewin? I don't know if I'm saying it right either.
it feels like a few years ago I started trying to learn Japanese and I had to drop it because I just didn't have the time. But trying to make the RL sound, I was just like, like how does my tongue do this? Um,
Mhm.
anyway, but seeing those like brought to life and just horrifying how this is how dangerous and terrible these things are. And it just it was so cool because when we had that chapter in Ships of Mirior when Sethvir is telling the Sabridian brothers about all this, and I had like this mental image of sort of what this could look like, and then now we actually see it tangibly.
Mhm.
That was so cool. I love that, and I can't get over. We eventually to get out of this place, which like this whole thing was it's a Paravian Grimward, right? So the Paravians
Right.
have a hand in like why this is here, and the at least I get the feeling this isn't the only one on Aethera. I feel like there's multiple, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but I thought the coolest part about it is they got to go into this dragon's skull. Like they just see the skeleton of this dragon, and they got to go into its skull to get out of the Grimoire and back onto like Aethera proper. And
Mhm.
Sandir is there. He's basically like holding the gate open in a way and like holding these monsters at bay and trying to help the people get through. And he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to help Lyser's people get through because he doesn't want to see them all die, and they do anyway. But he's trying his best. But like that was just that image of them just like rushing into the dragon's skull that's being held open by a Sandir sort of magically, and like that's just the coolest. It's so I feel
Epic.
like it's so epic. I feel like I said this the other day. Like these books are just so full of themes and like these beautiful descriptions, and the prose is amazing, and the characters are so great, and like it's got all these things. But at the end of the day, it's just got that cool shit. Like it's
That's
just
why, like,
awesome.
okay, there's quite a few fantasy series that you could like term as like academic fantasy and like is
Uh-huh.
very thematic, but like Wars of Light and Shadow and Malazan are the two where it's
Yeah.
like not only has this touched me on an emotional level, but this is like super metal, and I'm loving
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
so,
It's great, dude. And like it makes it even better that it can hit all of those things.
mhm.
It's not taking itself like it doesn't feel what's the word I'm looking for? Uh like it doesn't think that it's too good to do those just cool fantasy
Right.
things. Right? It's yeah, it's I loved everything about that chapter. It was just fantastic. And I want more dragons, please, Janny. I want more dragons.
Mhm.
I'm assuming we're going to get more. We can't just get this little glimpse in book 4 and not get anything else the rest of the way.
Mhm.
I think he says,
I'm
hopefully.
hoping we get more information on all the older races because when the Fellowship were talking about like Atheran history and they mentioned the four races that were, teaming up, the dragons and the three Paravian races, it kind of led me to believe that like the Paravians are on a similar power scaling as the dragons. So I'm interested to see
Yeah,
like
maybe.
what the centaurs are about, what the sun children are about, really just across the board,
Yeah,
what they be doing.
yeah. I want to know that too. I definitely want to know that too. Um, I was glancing through the end of my notes to see if there's anything big that we missed. I can't think so. Or I can't find anything. I know there was a bunch of stuff with Lady Maynard's son or nephew, whoever took over for her as Caethean.
Mm.
Is his name
Maynol.
Maynol? Maynol?
It's like
Very similar.
Maenol
Yeah.
instead of Nalle.
Yeah.
They look like they'd be pronounced the same though.
Yeah.
I think it was
Um
her grandson,
oh,
right?
that sounds right. That sounds
I
right.
think it's her grandson.
Yeah. But he's Caethean to Lysair's kingdom, right?
Right.
But it seems which again, that's why they're not the hand of the king, right? They're
Right.
not that. They're there to try to help their king do the right thing. And so we see
Mhm.
him working with the Cibridians, who are now seeming, at least Mern, who is like working with Erathon, basically. So I
Mhm.
thought that was cool that we're seeing these people who Lysair, at least the Cibridians, I think he at least believes they still are with him.
Mhm.
Um, it seems like he kind of knows that May Knoll is kind of not fully on his side. I think because he's kind of was. Am I right in that they sort of their armies clashed a little bit? I think.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think he knows that like his own kid at the end will never. I think the only clanborn that is like kind of in their good graces is the Cibridians, and that's because they held on to some of their power and they still have their old seat of power. So they're kind of viewed as townborn, even though they're clanborn, even though they're part of that old regime. Um, when Desh Thyr like unseated everyone from their realms of power, the Cibridians were the only ones who held on. So when everybody's like, "Oh, we got to kill those clanborn," Mirn's like, like,
Yeah.
sweating a little bit. Not to mention he's a double agent as well. But I think
Yeah.
it's like understood that like the clanborns are the ops within the Alliance of Light, with the exception of the Cibridian. But like low key, they're not on their side either.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like Maynol, I think with his grandmother, it was like, okay, maybe I could be his conscience and kind of guide Lysair away from this. And then it got to a certain point where she was like, okay, we're teaming up with Jarrett because this is
Hmm.
crazy. And I think her grandson is like, yep, nope. Maybe if there's ever another Seleucid heir, if he has any children, I'll gladly be his Caethean, but I'm not this dude's Caethean. Never,
Yeah.
ever, forever, never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is valid because I don't want to say Lysair is beyond the point of redemption, but he's pretty.
He's trying his best.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't remember what exact skirmishes they had in this book, but I know that
Hmm.
there was very little goodwill between them, even at the beginning of this installment. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Um, yeah, I don't want to like spend this whole video just scrolling through my notes here, but I noticed a couple other quick things that I think could come to be really important in the future, maybe with the
mhm.
fellowship. That one of them was we got a little bit more about in it was at the very beginning of Warhost when Caradmon was getting back from his like scouting mission on this other world, and those wraiths followed him, and there was that big battle, whatever, chaos in the tower. That we got another mention of that. That basically that world that he was in is just chock full of these wraiths, and this is what you were saying earlier too about like they have to have both Erathon and Lysair together to try to combat that. So
Mhm.
like I'm sure that the fact that we got another mention of that, I'm sure that's going to come into play later. And then the other thing I noticed, there was a really quick reference to I think it was Seth Fear mentioned that there might be a way to heal Traith, who was so like
Mm.
crippled basically from the big fight with the Mistwraith when it first entered Athera. He was like, there might be a way to heal this dude, but it's probably attached to the Mistwraith. Like there's something they're going to have to like go in and be like very, very close to this thing to try to heal him, which we
Mhm.
know that they want to restore the fellowship to like their normal seven full strong members. And
Right.
so I wonder if they're gonna. I'm like, are they gonna go try to heal him and they accidentally unleash the Mistwraith again? And what's
Mhm.
going on with that? And there was another. I think that the is it Silidus, the seventh one who's lost, who we don't know
Right.
where he is. They
Right.
mentioned him quickly in here. I think that if I remember correctly, they mentioned his name because Erathon's going off to find the Praevians again.
Right.
And they were like, Silidus tried to do this 200 years ago and he never came back. And so
Yeah.
makes me wonder, like, oh no, is Erathon gonna get stuck somewhere? And maybe
He's
that's how
probably
we
gonna
find
meet
Silidus.
Silidus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
I was really heartbroken bringing up Traith. I was really heartbroken when he finds them and Philirin's like messed up and everybody's messed up and they're like, if it had been another fellowship member, they would have been saved. And
Oh
like
yeah.
Traith knew that, and I'm like, dang, that sucks to like know that like if it had been anyone else, well, aside from like Luhane and Karadmon, who would have just been like ghost spirits.
Yeah, true. 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 Wow.
And Traith's Raven is weird, man. Traith's got a weird Raven.
Yeah. I want to know is that the Raven on the cover of this? Do you make that assumption? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's gotta be
Gotta
right.
be. Most deaf.
Yeah. We'll see. I want to know
And
more
the
about the
Raven on
Raven.
the sort of landscape cover of Warhost, you have like the sword and the Raven. I think it's
Yeah.
all supposed to be Traith's bird.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I can't think of anything else that it could be,
Right.
but I'm just like, did I miss something? I don't know. I know the bird has to be meaningful, but
Mhm.
like have we gotten much from the bird yet?
We've gotten a lot of like weird mentions of how intelligent it is
Okay. Yeah,
and
that's
how
true.
like Traith almost like defers to the Raven at times. Like he's like, "Are you seeing this?" Like he like checks in with the Raven sometimes, like not verbally, but like he'll like look at it. And unless I'm just completely making this up in my head, but I remember like there's almost a sort of like mutual respect between him and the bird, and I'm
Hmm.
I'm very curious
Yeah, you're right.
what's going on with that thing. It's not a
Yeah.
normal bird. It's
It's
not a normal
not.
bird.
It's not
Not at
normal.
all.
Can't be. Um, you got anything else? I
I
think
think
we touched
that's
on.
I think
Yeah.
that's all until Grand Conspiracy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot in this book, dude. It's crazy to sit here and talk through all of it again and like you just remember how much happened.
Oh, in the ending we get Fiark and Phelan and
Yeah.
we
They're in
get that
here.
family again. I always love seeing those twins.
Yeah.
And Phelan is kind of like pissed that Arathon left without her
Yeah.
know. Um yeah. Yeah, we get
Yeah.
that family dynamic again, which is always really fun. Janess.
It is fun. I like it. I think Phelan especially, I feel really confident is going to be important because like she can sail, right? So like, and
Right.
we know Arathon clearly is going to do a lot with ships, and so I feel really confident that she's going to come around a lot more. Fiark, I'm not sure. He's got to be important because he seems like he will be, but I'm not sure what his role will be.
Right.
We shall see. But their dynamic is definitely fun. Phelan is like she's a firecracker. I'll say that. How about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
There was
So
just because time passes so quickly in these books, there was a time where like this guy was like making a comment about Phelan's body, and I was like, "That's a child," and I'm like,
yeah,
"Wait, it's not a child anymore."
yeah,
But in my head, I'm like, I was still thinking of her as a little kid, even though I knew she wasn't. So when somebody made mention of her body, I was like, "Whoa!"
yeah.
Like, wait, okay, okay, like,
Yeah, yeah. It definitely. If I remember that, that felt weird to me too. So, do you know how old they're? Are they like teenagers here now?
I think they're teenagers into young
Teenagers,
adults.
20s, something like that.
Yeah, I think
Somewhere in that
late
range.
teens. I
Yeah, late teens, early
believe.
20s, somewhere there. At least we're going to pretend that so that that comment doesn't feel as creepy and weird. Um, no.
Yeah, in my head she was still 10, but then
Yeah.
I had to reckon with the fact that that is not the case.
Right. Yeah, definitely not 10. Definitely not 10. Well, we covered a lot of ground. I'm sure we missed some stuff. We probably got some little details wrong, as everyone is going to with this series their first time through. But I think we were catching a whole lot, having the best
Right.
time.
Agreed.
I always love talking about the series with you, dude. This is super, super fun.
No,
So,
same. There were quite a few things I wanted clarification on when we were in the group chat, like the mention of Kincaid. I was like, I had vague recollections just from you mentioning it, but I really wanted to sit on that more and talk about that
yeah,
more. But like you said, with the bigger discussion, it's not as easy to like really explore different things. So I had to like DM you after
yeah,
the fact and be like, what was that in reference to?
yeah. I felt so smart. I was like, yeah, I caught a thing that people didn't catch. This is great.
So many
Um,
things that, and then the Theon Aerith having similar letters to Arathon. Like as you were mentioning it, I was like nodding because there wasn't enough time for me to be like, I didn't catch that.
yeah. I mean,
So
I literally put it together right when I said it. Like that was
Mhm.
it. Just I don't know if you ever have this. Like when you're reading something, it's whatever. But then when they say something out loud and you make a connection about like a name or when you hear it verbally, it just is different.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sure, Mr. Audiobook narrator, I'm sure you can appreciate how the verbal narration and hearing something out loud is a little bit different. So, which, by the way, go get the Gallant audiobook, Paravia.com, narrated by Mr. Zachary Shea, the voice of Varain himself. I'm not even an audiobook guy, and it was great. So, once again, stoked for you, dude. And everybody watching this, go get it right now. Leave good reviews everywhere. Support
Thank you,
your boy,
man.
but also support Janny. Right. So,
It's only $3.
that's
$3
it.
for an audiobook. That's a steal. You'd be
Absolute
robbing
steal.
us.
It's 4 hours long, roughly.
Yep. Yeah,
Something
it's
like
about
that.
4 hours.
There you go. It's perfect. Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, thank you everybody for watching this. We have Grand Conspiracy coming up. I think I'm probably going to pick it up later this month and start reading. And
Same.
then I think the discussion will be sometime in October, the big group discussion towards the end of
Mhm.
October, maybe. And
Okay.
then we'll probably have our one-on-one talk about it relatively whatever nearish
Right.
future after that, somewhere in there, whenever it works out with us both being busy in school and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But we'll make it work at some point. Thanks everybody for watching. Leave a comment. Go subscribe to Shay, and I guess we'll see you next time.